in town for Phoenix Fashion Week. Wanted to make a quick stop and see as many people as I can. One main guy we need to see, Matt Gottesman, Hustle and Deal Flow Magazine, the Hustle Sold Separately podcast, which he's recording right now, and he's in between podcasts. So we're gonna go up, sneak in, and see if we can have a quick interview with him, get him on camera to talk about brand building, about Phoenix Fashion Week, and just about everything he's working on. Such a great guy, and I always want to make some time for him when I'm here. So hopefully he can make time for us. Come on. So I know we just popped in on you last second. I appreciate you taking the time in between podcasts.
Yeah, thank you.
And one of the main things is we talk about for my viewers is about refinement, right? It's a journey. On your podcast, you talk about the journey, but first and foremost, can you just give everyone a brief synopsis or description on the Hustle Sold Separately, which is your podcast, about 3 years strong, right? Some amazing interviews. I love listening to those. Can you give the viewers a little bit of insight on what they get, who you are, and who your primary guest is?
The Hustle Sold Separately is a media. For me, it was a media outlet. I wanted to be able to talk to both a worldwide audience and narrow that gap in entrepreneurship that, like we were just discussing with mainstream media sometimes missing, right? Because it's all very entrepreneurial driven. I also firmly believe in that we have to build our own media. We have, because when we own our own distribution, our own channel, and we have our own audience, we can have greater impact. So not only do I want to have my own impact, but I also want to bring people that I identify as leaders around the world who are also bringing impact. And when I say leaders, not always known by mainstream media, a lot of times they're just people who are really driven by something greater inside of them. And that to me is worth sharing because it's impactful in its own way. And if you look at them within their own given like environments or their followings or their circles of people, they're impacting them. And so essentially I like the idea of bringing them all in together, that person's circle and that person's circle, and et cetera, and et cetera. So the type of people that have come on, as I mentioned, they've been everybody from fashion designers and tech to startups and CEOs and entrepreneurs, Grammy winners, Emmy winners, Oscar winners, to your most prestigious watch company in the world,
which is next, right?
Which is next,
Audemars.
And all of it is just very real conversation about their individual journey within themselves and within the thing that they're creating or the business that they're evolving, right?
And one of the things that I drive to everyone, I'm going to drive and continue to drive, is that nothing is overnight, right? Learn from the people before you. And I want to help all the men out there understand that it is a journey, but I'm going to help you bridge that gap, right? And so one of the things is that we talk about refinement. You talk about building brands. I mean, you worked for one of the largest and oldest brands in the world. And can I mention it? In Louis Vuitton Moet Hennessy. You helped build their whole platform, social media platform, if I'm not mistaken.
No. Them just digital advising on a few of their, the champagne brands and whatnot. But
cool. But you worked with one of the biggest, oldest brands in the world. So you know how to build brands. You've worked with people who build brands. Let's talk to the man out there about, forget the entrepreneur or the brand, them as a brand. What's your advice for how they build themselves as a brand first and foremost?
How much time you got?
Right? If you could give, your big brother, fatherly, friendly, mentor advice in a brief description on, someone says, Matt, what do I do to build myself as a man?
You have to break down your entire fiber of being, and you can't wear a mask. It's not going to work. And sooner or later, either somebody else is going to rip that mask off of you, or you're going to do it yourself. That's my opinion. And what happened for me was I had a series of events that just forced me into a position that I could only look at the person in the mirror. And when that happened, I started asking questions like, what kind of man am I, and what kind of man do I want to become that I know I'm already am, but I haven't grown into? What kind of man am I to a partner if I want to choose to be married again? What kind of like how would I treat her? Like how would my relationship with her be? What kind of man would I be to a community? What kind of man would I be, in business? Like all these questions started coming up because often at times what people do is we look at all the external things or people and we say, well, this circumstance caused that, this person did this person did that. And that's just not the case. It actually has to start, because whatever choices you made got you there. Whether somebody on the other side of that is not jabbing with you well or not, it doesn't matter. Whatever reason that person is in front of you or that situation, a series of your choices got you to that moment. So you have to really go inside and get real with yourself and start asking a lot of the deeper questions like, what am I? Who am I? And that's a process. Like it's just not done overnight, because you also start seeing, why do you get triggered in certain areas? Or like, why do I dress this way when I really feel that way? Or, why did I make those choices in dating when really this is clearly where I want to be? And if this is where I want to be, am I behaving like the man that this would attract in the first place? Or how am I behaving in business if I'm not getting the outcomes I want? Or if patterns keep happening? Why do the patterns keep happening? So it is a process. The unraveling and the unlearning and then relearning is a process.
It's a never-ending process.
It's a never-ending process.
And that's what most, especially young men, never realize.
Yeah.
It's a never-ending process.
Yeah.
They want now. I want to be this. I want to have this, and they don't realize that even when you become that and you have that, you're like, that was it. I got to do more.
Yeah.
I got to do more. So it's so cliche sayings are cliche for a reason, right? And the whole journey, you really have to embrace the journey and be grateful for that journey, because a lot of people don't even get the journey, right? So, and I get a lot of people go, well, I can't wear a suit like you, or I can't dress like you, and or I get I don't like to use the term millennial, so we'll just say the younger generation go, well, I can run a business in a sweatshirt, right? Like I don't need to be held down by the man, because there's such a shift, and I let people know, and I want to get your take on this. I let people know that you don't have to wear a suit, right?
No.
I know how it makes me feel,
Right.
and I know that if I take 2 8-year-old boys and put one in a suit and one in not, how they'll act and walk, and just not without having life experience, how they'll act.
Right.
But you can dress down, you can dress up, that's not what it's about in terms of being a refined gentleman, right?
Not at all.
What is your take or opinion, or who is the refined gentleman?
Huh.
Or what is the refined gentleman?
For you bring up a point, because it's not always external. Most of the time it's not external.
Yeah.
It's very much character driven. You ever see people just move through rooms with an energetic state, a charisma that everybody's attracted to that person? And when I say attracted, I don't mean looks wise. There's just something so magnetic in their energy that people want to talk with them, be around them. And by the way, interestingly enough, you can see this with some people today that are, pop culture icons, like people like Jay-Z, which I talk about all the time, like, t-shirt and jeans. And I mean, but an art collector and a billionaire and all, people see the external stuff, but it's his energy state of what's happening in how he's handling himself and handling others and creating these, this charisma in the market, while at the same time discerning boundaries of like, hey, it's okay, you can think of whatever you want to think, but I'm gonna maintain this Yoda-like state, and you're gonna appreciate that one way or another. And so I think charisma is a very internal state. It's a characteristic, and it's your own development of your character that creates that movement. And then of course, you can accentuate that with external things, and we want to be able to enjoy external things or whatever. It's just that, but it's us giving energy to those external things. It cannot be the other way around. Because if those external things are if we're trying to extract an energy from that, we're done. It's not even gonna work.
One of my favorite lines, Jay-Z line, and it goes back to the question I asked you about a man building himself as a brand.
Right.
One of my favorite lines in period. Whoever said it, but Jay-Z said it.
Yeah.
I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman.
Right.
And it's when you look at a guy like that.
Right.
I mean, he came from the hood.
Yeah.
He built himself up to where he is. If you listen to how he speaks now,
Oh yeah.
versus how he spoke 20
Oh,
years
yeah.
ago, you can be in t-shirt and jeans, but how you speak and how you
It's everything.
present is everything.
It's everything.
It's everything.
Yeah.
Right. And he can rock a suit. He can
Right.
rock jeans. But when he speaks,
Everybody listens.
it's on a more refined level now. And
Oh,
he's an art collector, and he collects. So this is what
Wine,
HIStinguished is all about, and wine and champagne. Started a whole movement himself behind that.
Yeah.
This is what I want to teach our young men about, is the education of those things, on how a guy like that got there.
Yeah.
Because if you want to have a conversation
Yeah.
with Jay-Z, you're not going to run up to him and go, hey, we listened to my demo.
No.
You might want to talk about, a Matisse,
Right.
or a fine wine that has been sitting on the shelves for 60 years. You might want to have some business insights,
Right. An elevated state
an
of
elevated
conversation.
state of conversation.
Yeah.
And that's what HIStinguished is all about, teaching men all across the board an
Right.
elevated state of conversation. I'm going to use that. I like
Yeah.
that. And you have those conversations all the time with people. You're vested in local companies. I'm here for Phoenix Fashion Week. We're going to see each other tonight or tomorrow
Yep,
night
both.
there. And can you elaborate on yourself with yourself as a brand, and how you work with the community and Phoenix Fashion Week? Just give it to us.
It's interesting. It's interesting to be asked. So there's the brand of me in my world, and I do. By the way, I like the fact that you said when Jay-Z. It is one of my favorite lines. It's his line.
Yeah.
I'm not a businessman. I'm a businessman. He runs himself very intentionally, his whole world, which is, there's a lot of processes, right? So we're all more than one thing. I preach that a lot, because at least I believe that we're all more than one thing. We're not, just a cameraman or a content creator or, corporate real estate. We're commercial real estate. We're more than that. And you're a company owner, several company owners. So for me, the brand of Matt Gottesman is, there's the media side. I want critical mass distribution to be able to have these kind of conversations to the world at large, right? And to as many people as possible, because for me, my purpose is how much can we impact people to be their whole authentic selves, and like cut through all of the noise that's out there. So there's Matt Gottesman in media, and then there's Matt Gottesman in that there's two components to me that are very, I guess, unique. I love business, and I put this on my profile. I love business and I love spirituality. I think they're actually interacting with each other. Spirituality meaning like who we are in this world was going to actually translate into who we are in business and who we are in our personal lives and everywhere else. And so I try to really bring that out in a lot of the things that I do within media, and then also like within business. And so I'll consult a lot of times with companies, with brands, about where they're at and where they want to head. But it's so much more than that, because it's actually their growth. It's like what they're going through in the process. So I'm actually there to be able to be a part of that. And how are we thinking about, how are we connecting with the people that are resonating with this brand, right? So there's that aspect. And then there's me trying to be way more involved actually in the community, because that's to me, that's where like the soul like feels the most impactful, because I think about how much work that I have to go through, and I can only imagine how much work other people have yet to go through, and how can I make that easier for them. I didn't understand that when I was younger, when people we admire would say that about us, like, oh, I want to give back and here's why. And I realized, like, because they had been through so much, that you almost hurt for other people to not go through that. And so how do we make their path a little bit easier, but still accountable for them, so that way they're still doing the work, but we're there to inspire and to help and to move and to motivate and get them the right resources or get them the right direction or whatever it might be. And then yeah, with something like Phoenix Fashion Week, it was actually really organic. Again, because of the whole digital world that I've been a part of for like 15, 20 years, being asked by an emerging event series in the Southwest that wanted to do things differently than some of the other traditional fashion weeks, and be innovative in digital and be innovative in just in its presentation. And you know, it's still learning, it's still growing, but it was cool to be asked to be a part of that and sit on the style council board. And then I just continuously be asked, like, hey, these are emerging designers. Can you talk to them about like building your brand? Like, what does it really mean? And how do you stay in your lane when the rest of Instagram and the rest of the world is showing you the highlight reel? How do you narrow down and be like, you know what, I'm just about the cut and sew, and I'm just about the materials and the manufacturing, and I'm going to show you all, and I'm going to document it all, and I want everybody to see all of this work, and I just want to do this for the people that I'm having this relationship with, and I'm sharing it with them, and we're all in it together, right? Like, versus the clutter of the world. So being able to mentor, you know, the designers that way, or just participate in workshops and like saying like, hey, you know, running a brand is really running a business. It's not just I'm going to slap up some content and hope that everything pours in. It's, you know, there's legal, and there's marketing, and there's you know, investing money into it, and then there's your own stuff, and then there's systems, and you know, so there's so many different things that happen in running your brand like a business. And I'm closer to where I want to go. Still, I'm far from where I started.
Yeah.
But far from where I still want to go, and I make sure that I can only help from how much I know while still staying a student the entire time. I'm always a student.
It's a trip, isn't it? That when you jump in that car and you're driving on that highway, and I want to touch on, there's about 4 or 5 things you just brought up, and I want to try to touch on those while we still have time.
Yeah.
I mean, you're in so much. You do this amazing podcast. You have your hands in the community, you help build brands, you're interviewing some of the most influential people on the planet. And with that being said, I'm going to touch on one thing. You said the community. There's 2 communities.
Right.
There's your backyard community,
Yeah.
and there's the worldwide community.
Yeah.
And with social media and all these platforms, the world has gotten so much smaller. It was already small, but it's gotten so much smaller. And does it not blow your mind on how small and how connected the world
Way
is?
more connected.
And we're going to talk about the connection here in a second. You also spoke on spirituality and connection, and as we get older, we learn so many things that people who were older told us, and we were like, yeah, whatever. And then you get there and you're like, oh man, I should have just listened. Like, I was and with the spirituality and connection thing, a lot of people are so diehard in their own views on their spirituality and their religion, but when you really get on that global level, that worldwide community, you realize that it's all for the sake of the people in general, right? It's for the greater good of everybody.
Yeah.
And we share a connection with a couple and a company that really believes in that passion. We both have intention sticks. We both share, and I'm actually interviewing the couple that created this in a few days. I'm going to do it at their place on the lake, and we're going to discuss that. And we come from different backgrounds. We have different spiritual beliefs, but yet we share such a common connection.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And strength and ambition and drive, just to not only want to be better for ourselves, but everyone around us. And that's one of the things that we'll talk about. But in your journey, and as you become older and become better and better, have you noticed that all of the stuff that the younger crowd, or when you were younger, used to spend so much time focusing and thinking on and being it just fizzles away, and you just realize that it's just such a bigger, better picture for everyone?
Yeah. Well, I was chasing a lot. I was chasing so much that I got so burnt out. And it's interesting, the things we focus on when we're younger are part of that chase. And interesting, you either get it or you always feel like you're pushing it away. The more you're chasing it, the further you're pushing something away. So you end up in this kind of weird cycle that is not fulfilling So whether you get it or not, there's still no fulfillment. And the spiritual aspect, because religion's tricky, right? I think religion gets tricky because you got all these rules. But when I talk spirituality, I think about the connection we have internally to ourselves, and to something greater, and then to everybody else. And how does that energy all flow? And everybody wants, if you break it down globally, everybody wants the same thing.
Yeah.
They want the love,
Whether
and the
they
freedom,
realize it or not.
whether they realize it
Yeah.
or not. How they express it and what circumstance they're coming from is part of their journey to overcome. But everybody wants the same thing, more or less. We're all wanting the same things: the intrinsic needs and the fulfillment, and the freedom and the peace and the happiness and the love, all these things, right? So, but yeah, we're living this amazing time though too, where we can actually connect faster on that level than ever before too.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we break down the worldwide community, I know that we can, or we will, and we are helping such a young, because there's a lot of social anxiety, depression, and everything based on looks and haves and have-nots, and it's up to us. We're the OGs now, right?
Yeah.
To put it in those terms, we're the OGs of saying, look, it's a journey. We've gotten here. Don't listen to the hype.
Right.
That's one of the things you brought up. I wanted to point out. You talk about the content people put out, their highlight reel, and we look at that and go, that's a Tuesday for us, right? But we don't need to show that. We just want to help people make sure that, I like to say, every day's Friday.
Yeah.
I want to help everyone make sure that every day for them feels like Friday.
Yeah.
You should enjoy your life, and then let's get to purpose, because you talked about purpose.
Oh, yeah.
I have an exercise that I ran through with a young man that works for me in one of my other businesses. I put him through like a quick 3-day seminar. He didn't even know it. Came out to work with me in my office on our other business, and I said, we're going to do something different. And I'd love to run you through this exercise when you have time over the next couple weeks. We'll sit down. I'm going to run it through the team behind the cameras here, and it's so mind-blowing. I don't even know where I came up with it from. I just happened to do it.
I think we're all a channel.
Right?
We're all able to do that kind of work.
And he's worked for me for a year, and afterwards, before he left to go back home, he said, can I tell you something? I said, of course. He goes, I've learned more in 3 days from you than I did in the last year. He's like, as a matter of fact, probably more in my life. He goes, because it wasn't about learning, you really made me find he's 23 years old.
Yeah.
He said, you helped me find what my purpose is.
Yeah.
And I went, I said, I didn't help you find it. You already knew it.
Right.
I just had to bring it out of you.
Yeah.
And what a lot of, I don't care if you're 23 or 53 and you're still searching for purpose, it's okay.
Absolutely.
Right? It's okay.
Absolutely.
To still be searching for purpose, because guess what? Even when you find and achieve your purpose, there's a new purpose.
Yeah, that's a piece I had to learn when I got older. I didn't realize that our purpose can actually have a lifespan.
Yeah.
I had always been under the mindset that it's this entire time you're here on Earth. No, it's not. Actually, like, you can have purpose for an 8-year run, a 20-year run, a 5-year run. Different things can come into your purview. In fact, you couldn't get to this 5-year purpose without achieving these other purposes that needed to prepare you to handle the things that you're doing at this level. We don't always know what those other things are until we get to there and we embrace the process. But having purpose sets a whole different dynamic in our daily approach to life completely, because now we move different, we think different, and we're motivated differently. And then if the purpose starts waning, that's okay. You might have just served that amount of time for the purpose. It may be just because you're getting ready for another one.
And I'm going to talk. You just said something which is great. I want to point out, when we were younger, well, at least when I was younger, we all have different drive and chase. When I was younger, I believed that money made you who you were. That's so not true.
Right.
It's not even close. Money just enhances who you already are.
Right.
So you need to become that best version of yourself.
Yeah.
So with that, if you were to go through the HIStinguished program, if you will, and you could learn one thing, because let's be real, the network you have now
Right.
is what made you and continues to make you who you are.
Right.
Right? Is that a fair statement?
Yeah.
You didn't have that network 20 years ago.
No.
Right? And if you would have been able to tap into that network, if I would have told you now, if I would have looked at your 20-year-old self and said, hey, you need to focus on a better network to be a better you would have just smacked me in the
Like,
face.
okay,
and,
yeah.
No,
Yeah.
okay. But
I'm doing fine, yeah.
doing fine.
Right.
You know, the network is important, but a network is attracted by who you are, what you can offer, what you bring to the table, value. So if you, as you are right now, you've seen a lot of things, you've interviewed the world's most influential, you've been around the block, you continue to grow and get better. There's even more things we can't talk about now. Your better half does amazing things with people, and we'll go into that another time, hopefully. What is one thing, if you could learn or become better or more refined in anything that you feel like you would need help with or would like to learn more, if you could look at me in the HIStinguished program and said, can you help me with this? What would it be? One thing, or one or two things, anything that comes to mind that you go, you know what, I wouldn't tell anybody this, but I could use a little help there.
Yeah, I'm still constantly working on the anxiousness sometimes of being more present, constantly working on being more present, because the anxiousness will drive me sometimes to make decisions that are not for my better self. You know, so that's a bit like anxiousness because like of where I think I need to be. Where do I need to be? What do we need to, have? How much should be in the bank account, et cetera, things like that. And those are all interrelated, and that's I think anxiety a little bit like, I mean, I'm for the most part pretty calm, but that's also because a lot of my, for a lot of like what I work.
That's surprising for me to hear.
Yeah.
Because
but I do have an internal. So that's another thing is that I'm very transparent with the world, but I still do have my own internal battles a lot. And the world sees a person always put together because I'm constantly making sure I show up for everybody else.
I know that feeling, yeah.
But I'm still trying to learn how to show up for myself even more and work on that inner anxiety, work on that, like, do I think I'm worthy? Absolutely. Does that worthiness get tested from the outside world? All the time. And then there's a battle that's ensuing, that's happening, and like, am I this, am I that? Like, wait a minute, I'm trying to build on this, So, I think it's that just the internal conversation. If you had to look at that, like that's a good one. And the conversations we have with ourselves, and so luckily I work on a lot of extra things like the meditation and, and exercise and gratitude journaling and all these other things. But man, oh man, that is a journey. That's a practicing journey, ongoing, to get better and better where the gap closes. So that way, like, I might get hit hard with like emotions, internal emotions, or something happened, but my rebound time is like an hour or two now, or 3, or maybe half a day, versus you sitting in something for a long time.
For months,
but it's still
sometimes.
a lot of for months,
weeks, months, days. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it's still a practice, and
we're going to talk about.
We're
going to have a whole episode.
The inner
on that,
conversation, I think, is quieting out that noise, and each new level, after you've mastered a level, there's a new level of noise. So you're constantly having to like learn to stay present. And the other thing too is a lot of your processes that we just spoke about this, a lot of your processes that you do that really help you get to where you want to go. All of a sudden where you want to go starts coming in. We then start cutting corners on our own processes that got us there. Yeah. Becoming
autopilot.
Saying no even more. I say no, but I want to get even better at saying no, and making sure that my non-negotiables are that these things for me that make me healthy have to come first. Because there's still a side of me that I love people and I love helping, that I can lose myself in helping them and seeing the good in that. But at the end of the day, we have to be able, this sounds bad, but it's true. The person we have to rely on the most is ourselves, because humans are humans by nature, and they're going to do what they're going to do. And on any given day, you can't have expectations that they're going to be there for you. You have to really learn a certain inner reliability on yourself, and that's a lot of work. So reliability would be another one on yourself, inner.
We're going to do all. We're going to speak on all of that, and I know we're getting short on time. So speaking of gratitude, I want to just say again how grateful I am for you to allow myself and my team to come in. It's always a pleasure spending time and seeing you. I know you have this podcast with AP, Automars, PK, and you're going to let us sit in some of this. maybe capture a little and kind of just get this big. You're gonna see a huge grin on my face. But I'm so grateful. It's always wonderful seeing you. Phoenix Fashion Week. What are you gonna wear?
Tonight I'm probably a little bit more streetwear-ish. Tomorrow night it's gonna be a suit.
Tomorrow
So
night?
I'm switching it up for
All
two
black
different-
everything tomorrow?
Yeah. Huh?
All
No,
black?
no, no, no. I'm
I'm
going.
going all
I'm
black.
going.
You
I'm
were
going
all
navy.
black everything last year.
I'm going all navy. I'm doing navy, similar shoes, and then I'm either gonna do a white shirt with a brown and blue tie, or like a light blue with a brown and blue.
Well,
Like
we're gonna get you tomorrow. We're gonna do a little handshake.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna go all black everything.
Yeah, please do.
Just in the
Please do.
just in the vein of what we just spoke about.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I appreciate everything.
Thank you for having me on. I
time.
appreciate it.
Nick D, Matt Gottesman. I'm going to put a link below to his podcast. Any other information that you allow me to give, I'll give to them.
Thank you, guys.
Anything you need in terms of questions on this conversation, ask us. We'll get it for you. And we look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks.